Coming up on Chapman News, an update on the horrific subway shooting in New York, and a look at mass transit close to home. Is crime up in LA? We have the numbers.
And a major victory for Ukraine, sinking a Russian warship in the Black Sea.
And an in-depth look at how Serena Williams may have experienced medical racism. All that and more on this edition of Chapman News.
From Dodge College of Film and Media Arts, this is Chapman News.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Chapman News. I'm Promise Johnson.
And I'm Claire Weber. We begin this morning with the very latest on the subway shooting in New York and ask the question, just how safe is mass transit here? 62-year-old Frank James was arrested, charged, and is being held without bail. He is suspected of committing a terrorist act on a mass transit system. 26 people were injured during a shooting at the Sunset Park subway station in Brooklyn. If convicted, James could face life in prison. Our Adrian Mitchell takes a closer look at the shooting and what it means for other cities. And as a warning, some of these images are graphic.
Smoke grenades and gunshots. People flee for their lives during morning rush hour.
There was a lot of blood trailing on the floor. And at the time, in the moment, I did not think that it was a shooting because it sounded like fireworks. All I saw were people trampling each other, trampling over each other, trying to get through to the door, which was locked, and there was just a lot of panic.
This incident comes just 2 months after New York Mayor Eric Adams announced his campaign to crack down on crime and gun violence. Crimes on New York public transit systems have increased by 65% this year. And the problem isn't only in New York. Adams warns about rising crime nationwide.
But this is not only a New York City problem. This rage, this violence, these guns, these relentless shooters are an American problem.
According to LA County Metropolitan Transportation Authority data, reports of violent crimes in Los Angeles in 2021 were up 25% from 2020 and up 9% from 2019. The LAPD crime data set shows an increase in aggravated assaults with a deadly weapon on metro buses in LA from 2017 to 2021. This increase in crime is notably coupled with a decrease in ridership. The metro lost about 70% of its ridership during the height of the pandemic. And currently, ridership is only 65% of pre-pandemic levels. With crime being brought to the forefront of people's minds, Rick Caruso is looking favorable to become the next Los Angeles mayor. Caruso is running on a platform of increasing public safety and ending homelessness. I'm Adrian Mitchell for Chapman News.
More bad news on prices. Last month, the U.S. inflation hit a high of 8.5%. Gas prices jumped by 48% year over year, and rental rates have increased above the pre-pandemic trend. Americans are spending money on gas, housing, and food when the economy is facing shortages from the supply chain crisis. The federal government fears of a recession, but is starting to roll back its pandemic stimulus and raising interest rates to combat this wave of high inflation.
As the war in Ukraine continues, the effects on global resources grows worse and worse. Reporter Daniel Gomez has more on how the war has crippled agricultural industries, which can mean a shortage of food.
First it was fuel, now it's grain and wheat. The war in Ukraine is impacting every industry worldwide. Ukraine and Russia make up over 25% of the world's wheat production, and both have greatly decreased exports. Russia stopping their own exports in response to sanctions, and Ukraine unable to even farm in the face of Russian attacks. Ukraine is a country of nearly 70% farmland, and the war has stripped them of the means to utilize that land. Russian forces are actively attacking farmers, their storages, and their equipment to hamper Ukrainian production. On top of this, Russia has completely blocked major trade routes, and many Ukrainian farmers have joined the military effort. The result is an unprecedented shortage in wheat and grain that will especially hurt poorer countries that rely on Ukrainian exports. In the US, wheat and grain products will increase in price until production is increased here and around the world to make up for the deficit. This is Daniel Gomez for Chapman News.
And breaking news, 900 civilians' bodies have been found in and around the capital of Kiev, and suspicion of chemical weapons being used in Mariupol arises. Peyton Bell is here with an update.
It's been 1 month and 15 days since Russia launched a full-scale attack on Ukraine. More than 4.6 million refugees fled Ukraine to neighboring countries so far, with more than 580,000 leaving this month alone. Russia is increasing efforts to secure cities along the Eastern Front, and Russia is now using heavy weaponry and alleged chemical warfare to lay siege on cities like Mariupol. Ukrainian officials claim that 2 of their Neptune missiles sunk a Russian flagship in the Black Sea. Russian officials deny this claim and say it was caused by a fire on board and that all personnel have been evacuated. However, the Pentagon has now confirmed the sinking was a result of a Ukrainian strike. Despite efforts to end the war with diplomacy, President Putin claims negotiations with Ukraine have reached a dead end, but Ukrainian negotiators say that talks are still ongoing. President Zelensky urges countries to send weapons and aid to Ukraine. The U.S. has announced an $800 million military aid package that centers, quote, around the idea of a larger-scale combat, while other allies such as the Czech Republic have begun to supply tanks to Ukraine. Zelensky has also urged countries to put tougher sanctions on Russia to push them toward, quote, real peace. On Tuesday, Japan approved sanctions on Russia, freezing financial assets of nearly 400 individuals, including members of Putin's family. As allies across the world continue to provide aid to Ukraine and put harsher sanctions on Russia, Finland and Sweden have made a major step toward joining NATO after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The two countries say the invasion has, quote, changed its security environment. If Sweden and Finland join the organization, NATO claims the Baltic Sea region could, quote, see a rise in stability of the region in the long term. The war doesn't seem to end anytime soon, and we can only watch as the conflict moves eastward. I'm Peyton Bell for Chapman News.
Tensions aren't only rising across Europe, but here in the States as well.
Ryan Deeb is here with your political report.
Thanks, ladies. We have a lot of news coming out of the Capitol this week, plus news from Orange County. First, an update on the January 6th committee's investigation. The January 6th committee is still collecting information on the U.S. Capitol riot in early 2021. The committee has determined that they have enough information to make a criminal referral against Donald Trump, but are still split on the decision to do so. This week, Stephen Miller, former aide to Donald Trump, appeared before the committee. Miller resisted the initial subpoena, even attempting to sue the committee after calling him to testify. Jason Sullivan, an aide to political consultant Roger Stone, urged Trump supporters on a conference call to descend on the Capitol on January 6th because of the stolen 2020 election. Sullivan claimed he was not inciting violence, but wanted people to put pressure on the political officials inside. And Dr. Oz clearly has some big fans, not only of his career in TV, but on the campaign trail. Former President Trump recently endorsed Mehmet Oz in the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. During a rally in North Carolina, Trump discussed their shared history as television stars and feels Oz is the most electable candidate.
Great guy, good man, Harvard educated, tremendous career, and they liked him for a long time. That's like a poll. You know, when you're in television for 18 years, that's like a poll. That means people like you, but he's a great guy.
Now, on to political news in Orange County. Edgar Lamas and Carlos Regoza Paredes were charged with having enough fentanyl to kill nearly 5 million people. After pulling over the two men in a minivan, Buena Park police found 20 pounds of fentanyl, more than 800 pounds of meth, and nearly 200 pounds of cocaine. Buena Park police say this is their biggest drug bust in 16 years. The Placentia Yorba Linda School Board is banning critical race theory from being taught in classrooms, making them the first board in Orange County to do so. Critical race theory teaches racism is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but embedded in legal systems and policies. The Placentia and Yorba Linda ban is in effect starting now in K-12 schools. And that concludes your political update for the week. Back to you, Promise.
Have you seen more cats in your neighborhood? We'll have more on how feral cats are taking over Orange County.
Traveling for Easter Sunday? Don't ditch that face mask. Haley Montez has the latest updates on mask mandates for planes after the break.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Reports by the CDC suggest that racism may extend to the hospital.
Julia Gillums has more on the story. Thanks, guys. The CDC reports that a black mother is over 3 times more likely to die postpartum than a white mother. Studies report that these fatalities are actually statistical commonalities, a result of medical racism. Despite her celebrity status and the best access to medical facilities, tennis player Serena Williams almost became a part of this alarming statistic. But what saved her life? Her self-advocacy. Williams writes, "Giving birth to my baby, it turned out, was a test for how loud and how often I would have to call out before I was finally heard." The CDC reports that embolism and preeclampsia both tied for the leading cause of maternal death across all racial and ethnic groups. However, black women are 5 times more likely to die from these complications than white women, and pregnant and postpartum black women are also more than 2 times more likely than white women to die of severe bleeding or blood vessel blockage. Williams suffered from a postpartum blood clot and says nurses ignored her pain.
It hurts so bad. It hurts so bad.
She writes, "Many of these deaths are considered by experts to be preventable. Being heard and appropriately treated was the difference between life or death for me."
Traditionally, even dating back to slavery, where Black women were used for experiments, used in gynecology for experimentation, for hysterectomies, without anesthesia in many cases. So that dates back, where the mentality of some is that you have a higher pain threshold. You are not as sick or in as much pain as maybe some of your other counterparts. And so the tragedy of that is when you have something major going on, then no one hears you, no one's listening to you. And it's real.
As a mother, I'm concerned about the health and the safety of my children. As a woman, I'm also concerned that my health is not taken seriously and is marginalized.
That was my mother speaking, and she says she has had experiences where her pain was overlooked. But is anything being done to combat this harmful stereotype and biases for our future doctors?
The best textbooks that are around, there's not going to be a lot of skin color differences. It's generally going to be fair-skinned people in terms of what the picture looks like. At the end of the day, what we do as a future physician and physicians all around the United States is we say that we're practicing medicine, right? So the more practice that you get, the more ready you are for the situation when it comes.
But there is hope, as Dr. West says, that through trainings and awareness, people are working to change.
Trying to, really respect that in all people so that we can be sensitive to what others are going through, because we can't feel for them, but we can certainly feel with them. As African-American women, many times they expect you to be stronger and tougher and to be able to endure more.
But somehow you don't call everybody strong. Just Black bodies are strong. Black boy strong to strong Black man, and Black girl strong to strong Black woman. Kenzie, are you white girl strong to strong white woman? Or do you cry when you want to? Because you can.
My baby is my joy and my light. And when she grows up, I don't want anything to happen to her.
And when you say, and you may be at that point, but when you say, "Hey, I need help," many times it falls on deafened ears.
I'm Jalea Gillums. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Jalea. The COVID health emergency has been extended for 90 days, and it might be for the last time.
We have Haley Montez with more COVID updates.
Thanks, ladies. It's Easter weekend, and if you're planning on flying in the U.S. and hiding Easter eggs, you might still need to wear a mask. While major airlines have asked President Biden to release mask restrictions, it seems as though the Biden administration will continue to require masks on public transportation until May 3rd. Philadelphia is now the first major city to reimpose an indoor face mask mandate due to the rising COVID cases. The requirement will begin on April 18th, and the city's health commissioner, Cheryl Bettigol, says that she wishes the pandemic was over as much as any of you. The FDA authorizes its first COVID breath test for emergency use. The test spots COVID chemical compounds and shows results in less than 3 minutes. The U.S. State Department issued a travel advisory for Americans to leave Shanghai due to the rising cases in China. The advisory came after China reached its second week of lockdown. Local residents struggled to deal with the harsh restrictions that China enforced. China reported a total of 26,000 cases per day as its zero-COVID strategy failed to fight against the BA.2 subvariant. That's all for this week's COVID report. Back to you at the desk.
Some nasty weather to report. 23 people injured and 12 hospitalized after a tornado hit Central Texas. The Texans are left cleaning up the destruction that the tornado left behind. Luckily, there were no fatalities, and Texas is not the only state seeing destruction from the storm. Central U.S. has also been in the storm's eye, as well as Mississippi, Arkansas, and Kentucky have also been affected by these tornadoes and harsh storms. The Storm Prediction Center states that the storm seems to be moving to the northeast.
With more weather here at home, we have Adrian Mitchell in the Weather Center. Adrian?
Thanks, ladies. California is in a severe drought. The statewide snowpack is only 38% of the average, and California's reservoir storage is only 48% full. Snow water content usually peaks April 1st, but this year it peaked in mid-January. So what can you do? Reduce outdoor watering by using native plants, install a drip irrigation system, and fix leaks. Washing full loads of clothes can save 15 to 45 gallons per load, and using a full dishwasher can save 5 to 15 gallons per load. Now onto your weather forecast. Here in Orange, it's significantly cooler than last week. At 71 degrees, I'd recommend putting on a light jacket and going out to enjoy the sunshine. Onto our national forecast. In Starbucks' birthplace, it's a high of 51 degrees. Perfect weather for a hot latte. Over in my hometown of San Francisco, it's looking a bit chilly on the Golden Gate Bridge with a high of 58 degrees. But over in Las Vegas, I'm placing bets it's t-shirt weather with the high at a warm 81 degrees. Moving east to Denver, where it's exactly 1 mile above sea level, the high is at a cool 66 degrees. Down in Austin, home of the largest urban bat population, it's pretty hot with a high of 86 degrees. Up north in Minneapolis, where Scotch tape was invented, you better bundle up because the high is at a very cold 37 degrees. In Chicago, the birthplace of the brownie, it's pretty chilly with a high of 51 degrees. In New York, Lady Liberty is staying cool with a high of 68 degrees. In Biden's backyard, it's a moderate 71 degrees. In Atlanta, home of the world's largest drive-in, the high is a very pleasant 77 degrees. And finally in Miami, Burger King's homeland, it's very warm at 81 degrees, but expected to rain. Moving on to your Orange County forecast, Westminster, Orange, and Mission Viejo are all sporting a high in the low 70s. Irvine, Newport Beach, and Laguna Beach are all in the high 60s, and San Clemente is the coolest at 63 degrees. Now onto your Orange 7-day forecast. You can expect highs throughout the week to be in the 70s and lows to stay in the 50s. The hottest day of the week peaks on Monday at 77 degrees before cooling back down to 74 degrees on Thursday. I'm Adrian Mitchell, and this has been your weather forecast.
Angel Stadium, more like Panthers Stadium. Did Tiger win the Masters? This and more coming up in sports.
I'll be seeing you in all of our favorite places with laughter and warm embraces all day through.
love you too.
With free COVID-19 vaccines, sunnier days are ahead. Visit getvaccineanswers.org.
I'll be seeing you.
Rescues across Orange County are trying to control what's already out of control, the cat problem. There's an increase in cat colonies all over OC. Barbara Fox has more on how volunteers across OC are teaming up to help save one cat at a time.
This might be your cat, greeting you with a cute meow as a treasured member of your family. But outside, it's a different story. The cats you find outside your home are most likely feral and have little to no human contact. They find people frightening.
You hear the hissing and growling? That's Mama.
This is Courtney. She hunts and rescues feral and stray cats, offering her help through social media platforms like Instagram. She's known as the Kitty Connect and offers help to neuter and spay cats. When California went on pause due to COVID, many shelters in OC stopped their low-cost spay and neuter programs.
Us independent trappers are taking cats to LA, Riverside, San Diego, just to find programs that are helping us trap, neuter, and release these cats.
Now you have feral cats everywhere, meaning they're breeding like crazy. Orange County Animal Services estimates over 93,000 outdoor cats.
You can go in Orange County on almost every block, every alley, and you're gonna find a colony.
The Kitty Connect is trying to control the cat population, bring it back down through a program called TNR, Trap, Neuter, and Return. If cats are not fixed, they can have up to 6 to 10 litters a year, meaning they can produce over 50 baby kittens. Courtney says there is just not enough resources for the animals to survive, many spreading diseases to one another. It's not easy to trap feral cats. Sometimes it takes all night. First, Courtney puts fresh food in the trap in order to catch them. She also lays down a pee pad so they can use the bathroom on their journey to get neutered or spayed. Then she lays a blanket over the trap so the cats don't feel scared.
Hopefully they're hungry.
And not just feral cats need help. Courtney says a lot of people adopted house cats during the pandemic, but realized they couldn't take care of them.
Once they realized it costed money to have a pet and it was a lot of time to have a pet, they kicked these pets out, and those pets have reproduced.
Courtney says some people try to surrender domesticated cats to the shelter, but it is too expensive, $300 or more per animal.
We need more government-funded programs or low-cost clinics.
But that is not always possible, which is why Courtney is forced to do it on her own. If you find a feral or stray cat in your community, contact the Kitty Connect on Instagram. For Chapman News, I'm Barbara Fox.
If anyone at home sees a cat with a tipped ear like the one behind us, it's already spayed and neutered and it can be left alone.
Speaking of cats, Tiger Woods had a remarkable comeback at the 2022 Masters tournament this past weekend. After 17 months away from the game, while recovering from a nearly fatal car accident in 2021, Woods shocked many by making the cut last Friday to continue play in the Augusta National. Despite finishing 13 over, his worst score in Masters history, Woods walked off the course to a standing ovation from spectators, showing his play meant more than just golf. With more on sports is Kyle Carr.
Welcome to the best campus sports show. I'm Kyle Carr, and what a week it has been. It was great to see Tiger in Augusta, but Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler stole the show. McIlroy surged back on Sunday, but Scheffler held on to his lead and ended the day 10 under. This is Scottie Scheffler's first major title. And some sad news to report. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Dwayne Haskins was struck by a truck while attempting to cross westbound 595 on foot near Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Haskins had an outstanding college career with Ohio State, breaking multiple Big Ten records with 4,939 total offensive yards and 50 touchdown passes. Haskins didn't have the NFL start he wanted and was training in Florida to earn his spot on the Steelers roster. It is still unknown why he was crossing the freeway on foot. Dwayne Haskins was only 24. And moving back to the West Coast, Los Angeles Lakers announced the firing of Frank Vogel on Monday. Vogel ran the team since May of 2019 with a record of 127 wins and 98 losses, including winning the 2020 championship. With big names like LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the roster, Vogel lacked consistency this season, which showed in their 33-49 record, leaving them out of the postseason. The Lakers found themselves in the bottom 10 of both offensive and defensive efficiency after being first in defense in the 2020-2021 season. Rob Pelinka, the Vice President of Basketball Operations and General Manager of the Lakers organization, spoke on the decision.
We felt like it was time for a change in our leadership voice. And listen, this was a disappointing Lakers season at every level.
In some local sports news, Monday was a special day for both the Angels baseball team and Chapman University. Our cheerleaders led high school squads in an outfield performance. Alexis Tripke has the story.
On Monday, the Chapman University cheer team had their first of two performances at the Angels Stadium in Anaheim, California. A spectacle of this scale is not a walk in the ballpark. Leading 7 high school squads calls for a lot of preparation and coordination from all parties. Incoming captain Kendall Hudson reflected on what it means to be performing at a professional athletic event.
I love performing with my team like we've been doing all season, but the thing I'm most excited about is incorporating the high school students in with us.
The collegiate student athletes weren't the only ones ready to show their spirit in the outfield performance. High schoolers from Los Angeles and Orange County were ready to work with Chapman's squad and fellow students.
I think that it's very fun just to see all these schools dance and just to perform in general in front of a lot of people.
I'm really excited to perform, but also just to watch baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport.
The pregame performance anticipation was at a high as the cheerleaders were led under the stands, on deck, ready to dance.
Honestly, I'm feeling pretty nervous, but I'm super excited. I've never done this before, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure all these girls are going to do great, and I have a lot of confidence in everybody here.
Outgoing captain Mimi Carr speaks for the seniors on the team as they perform for the last time and what this unique experience has meant to her and co-captain Lauren Wong.
I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude right now because we didn't originally know in the beginning of the season that we were doing this. So I kind of already thought that it was the last time putting on the uniform and getting to perform. It definitely means a lot and is maybe a little bit of pressure that it's Lauren and my choreography this time. So I feel like I'm just trying to enjoy myself and being able to dance with the team.
Chapman's cheer squad will be back in Anaheim April 26th with new high school teams for another pregame performance. This is Alexis Tripke for Chapman News.
Sheesh, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Watching our Panthers take over the Diamond has definitely made me excited to go watch our own baseball team take on Cal Lutheran at 3 p.m. here at home. This has been your Sports Report. I'm Kyle Carr.
Jennifer and Ben are tying the knot. Britney Spears is pregnant, and I'm finally not alone. Up next, your entertainment report.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Claire, I hear one of Hollywood's most notorious couples is finally getting hitched.
I hadn't heard, but I know someone who has the latest on all the Hollywood drama. Luca?
Hello, Muffins. I'm Luca Evans, and I'm here to take you on another jaunt through the Hollywood Hills. Let's jump right in with some exciting Bennifer news. If you don't succeed at first, try, and try again. Last week, actor Ben Affleck proposed to Jennifer Lopez while she was taking a bubble bath. She said yes, congrats to them on their second engagement. This go-around, probably advisable to stay away from making any movies together, or this debacle could happen again.
It's turkey time. Huh?
They originally broke up in 2004 after an engagement. This ring now makes 6 gemstones for Lopez, enough to complete her own infinity gauntlet. Not feeling as quite as festive these days, Will Smith. After he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, Smith's getting straight up blackballed from Hollywood. Netflix is slowing plans on an upcoming film, Fast and Loose, starring Smith. Sony is also cooling on a Bad Boys 4. The rap reported one agent said he won't work with Smith's production company anymore. Yes, Smith slapped a man on national television, but flippin' Mel Gibson has been outwardly homophobic, racist, and anti-Semitic in the past. He's doing just fine. Louis C.K. has been widely accused of sexual misconduct and just won a Grammy for Best Comedy Album. And by the way, guess their skin color. More than a little questionable from Hollywood in this man's humble opinion. Moving on, the world of comedy suffered a major loss this week as the legendary Gilbert Gottfried died on Tuesday. Gottfried was known for his distinctive voice and unique brand of humor, carving out a long career as a stand-up comedian and voice acting in films like Aladdin.
Your dad is a moron! He's a moron! You know what a moron is? That's what your dad is!
Gottfried's publicist said he died of a rare genetic muscle disorder. He was 67. It's been a heck of a couple years for Britney Spears, but in some lovely news, she recently announced she was pregnant on Instagram. The pop star and partner Sam Asghari are expecting their first child together. Britney already has 2 kids with an ex-husband, as DJ Khaled would say, another one. She wrote on Instagram, quote, "I lost so much weight to go on my Maui trip only to gain it back. I thought, geez, what happened to my stomach? My husband said, no, you're food pregnant, silly. So I got a pregnancy test and, well, I'm having a baby." Britney says she will be doing yoga every day in this pregnancy while spreading, quote, joy and love. She also said sex is great when you're pregnant, so take that for what you will, I guess. I'm also hearing some rather scandalous reports that A$AP Rocky cheated on Rihanna, which if true would be one of the most heinous acts in recent memory, but a lot of sources have said it's not true and it's currently just Twitter gossip, so stay tuned next week to find out the true tea. Back to you at the desk.
If someone's cheating on Rihanna, there's absolutely no hope out here for the rest of us.
Whether that's true or not, men are trash. Anyway, thanks for joining us this week. Be sure to check out our YouTube page at chapmannews.tv and make sure to follow us at Chapman News. I'm Claire Weber.
And I'm Promise Johnson. And we will see you next week with another episode of Chapman News.